and her air voice. One of the things that air voice is good for is like saying, I have an idea, which is very different than saying, I have an idea.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so she played with water and air a little more, and she felt like, this is me too.
Welcome to the Metamorphosis Project Podcast. I'm your host, Tenya Eickenberg, and this is a space where transformation begins. Welcome back to the Metamorphosis Project Podcast. I am your host, Tenya Eickenberg, and today I have with me Barbara McAfee. Barbara is a voice coach, author, and a speaker. Welcome, Barbara.
It's a joy to be here, Tenya.
So we want to, being in the energy world, I work with my clients on finding their voice on an energetic level, being they don't want to be seen, they don't want to be heard, those kinds of things. You came at it from a different perspective on how to find your voice. And I say a different perspective because there are so many different ways for us to find our voice.
It's true. And
you've turned it into kind of your mission to help other people find their voice in this unique way.
Yes. And so I hear that metaphor all the time. I need to find my voice. I need to find my writing voice, my speaking voice, my authentic voice. And most of those approaches don't actually connect with the sound coming out of your face.
Right. Yeah. So at what point did you realize that your voice was hiding?
Oh my goodness. Well, it was a long and winding road, of course. I grew up singing in good choirs. I was very, very fortunate to have amazing experiences in group singing. I never ever wanted to sing alone in front of anyone, which is a pretty common experience, except that my grandfather was on the radio every week in Des Moines, Iowa when my mom was growing up. My mom was a solo singer. My brother was a solo singer. And so I came up with that, not very kind question, what's wrong with me, and because
you had it all around you,
right,
all the time. And so I can imagine as a little girl you were just like, why can I not do this? It's in my blood. Why is this not a part of me?
Exactly. And through bizarre circumstances, I think my voice has been sort of conspiring on my behalf for a really long time. It feels like it's my pal. It's my soul. It's my soul expression. SOUL. I got many aspects of expression, but it feels like it has been sort of dragging me into the light for decades. But through a bizarre bunch of circumstances, a friend overheard me singing late at night in the costume shop at college. And she gossiped to a mutual friend of ours who's a piano player. We're still friends all these years later. And said, hey, McAfee has a voice. And I was like, part of me was like, shut up. And part of me was like, yay. And, so he said, really? We've been friends for years. So we went into a little practice room, had a glass of wine, and I sang for him. And he said, you have a lovely voice. Would you sing with my jazz trio at this historic hotel on the Mississippi River? And I was like, So I said,
I can just imagine the fear just bubbling up inside of you going,
yeah, well, fear and desire, just neck and neck, And so someone in my mouth said yes. And then ensued a summer of terror and anticipation and shame and shudders after, and I did it every week. And, but there were moments, that I could feel this feels pretty good. Or I started therapy right around that same summer for the first time. And so I was sort of uncovering the sources of my silence.
Right.
And at the same time I was stepping into finding my own voice. So that was sort of the first step. And then I got mad about how frightened I was, started studying with a really great teacher, and mostly I just cried. I'd just go to her house and I'd start to sing and it'd just be like, bah! And then
that was your trauma release.
Exactly. Exactly. And I didn't know
Yeah,
that at the time, but she was great. You know, she wasn't trying to turn me into an opera singer.
right.
She was a holistic voice teacher. She said, you know, there are these people coming to town from the south of France. I think you should go to their workshop. And again, someone in my mouth said yes. And I went in terrified that they were going to shame me or tell me my voice was wrong or blah, 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 whatever. And in that first weekend, I thought, well, it blew open my story about who I was as a voice and as a person. My story was, my voice ended here, and there was nothing above that. I have
Yeah.
a low voice. I'm a tall woman. I'm 6'2", and I have a low voice, and I sound like my relatives. But there was nothing beyond that. So there was empty.
Yeah.
And in that first weekend, I made sound up here, which is
Wow.
almost to the top of the piano. And I wasn't me while I was doing it. I was pretending to be a bird, which helped me get out of my story.
Right.
And I thought, and no one had ever asked me for all the sound I had. It was usually, can you blend with the alto section? Could you be quiet so your father doesn't get irritated? Could you be a nice girl? All the things, right? And
Mm.
no one had said, come on,
Yeah.
bring it all. Let's go way down to the bottom. Let's go way to the top. Let's play with this thing. Let's make weird noises. And it was so liberating that I ended up getting a grant and going to study at the center in the south of the Roy Hart Center in the south of France, also with
Wow.
other teachers in Toronto, Ontario,
Hmm.
Canada, and I've been on that journey ever since. And the first teacher, Shaul Ryan, who helped me open that sound, became a dear, dear friend, and we taught together for over 20 years. He recently decided at 80 he wasn't going to fly across the ocean anymore. So
Oh.
now my nephew, who has studied with both of us for a long time, he has stepped in as my co-teacher. In a couple weeks, we'll be doing our second workshop together. So
That
that's
is
my story.
wonderful. That
Yeah.
is wonderful. So through this process of finding your voice and now teaching it, there was just this expansion. It just sounds like this expansion of like your singing, your voice, and you've carried it to help other people.
Hmm.
And so how do you help? So I myself have thought about taking voice lessons because to be honest, we'll be sitting around and this moment is just so vivid to me. Sitting around a campfire and singing to the songs on the radio, and all of a sudden someone says, "Oh my gosh, where is that noise coming from?"
Oh, honey.
And it's like, maybe I'll take voice lessons, but it's like
Oh,
every time I go to take voice lessons, like something interrupts.
yes.
And I know that that's coming for me, that's coming from an energetic standpoint.
Hmm.
So how do you assist people like me who really do shutter back
Hmm.
when we do start to sing and then someone says, "Oh my God, what is that noise?" How do you help them to feel more comfortable in using their voice to sing? Because even if it was just you and me, I would still feel very awkward in trying to sing.
Yeah. And just to be clear, the work I do is not just about singing. You know, people, I tell them I'm a voice coach, they say, oh, you're a singing teacher. It's like, well, kind of. If you want to sing, I'll help you do that. But mostly I start with sound because that's what set me free.
Okay.
So to just get the voice out of the voice box of
Okay.
singing beautifully or whatever. I work with people around speaking. I work with people around healing trauma. I'm not a therapist, but my work's
Right.
therapeutic.
Yep.
And it's
Absolutely.
energy work. It's like
Yeah.
similar to what you
Absolutely.
do, right? It's
Yep.
just a different expression of energy
Yeah.
that is necessary for our lives, right? If you've ever had laryngitis, you
Yeah.
realize, oh my gosh, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
It's so hard to communicate when you only communicate with your voice.
Exactly. And so I start wherever people are. I said, to quote a friend of mine, I start anywhere and follow it everywhere. So if it is a desire to sing, we start with that. But mostly we start with sound. To
Okay.
open the voice past speaking, past singing into sound. And that opens up a lot more possibilities. And over time, I took what I was learning from my teachers in that kind of extended range sound vocal approach,
Mm-hmm.
and I connected it to yoga, the chakra system from the yogic
Yep.
tradition, Jungian psychology using archetypes and characters, the collective unconscious, shadow, things like that.
I love it.
I was being a leadership development person. I was an organizational consultant for about 12 years. So I was looking at what makes for conflict and good relationships, leadership, all that. I threw that in the pot, and then I cooked it all up and created a framework called the 5 Elements Framework. And it kind of takes the voice like a prism takes light and kind of
Mm-hmm.
opens it up into different colors. And the elements that I use are earth, fire, water, metal, and air. And as you can hear, each one has a distinct vocal quality, and they connect to different parts of the body, and they connect with different kinds of human qualities. Like the earth is about getting grounded and having gravitas and projecting authority. And the fire is all about passion. The water is about the heart and saying anything your heart has to say. Metal is about getting loud without any vocal strain at all, and clarity and focus. And air is about the imagination, the spiritual realm, the possibilities. So that's the core of my work. I just released my second book about the work, and I'm training people. I'm not just working with individuals and groups, I'm also training people. There's about 75 people around the world who are trained in this work, because there's a lot of voices that need liberating.
That's amazing. And as you were talking about the frameworks and the elements, I could literally see it going from the root chakra to the crown.
Exactly. Exactly.
Just the way that you were, the way your voice was carrying.
Yep.
It was just bringing the just that full alignment into into alignment, just bringing
Right.
those chakras into alignment.
Yeah.
And it's really, for some people, it's really hard for us to, I don't say us, but it's very hard for humans
Mm-hmm.
to speak up and use their voices when they have gone through traumas, or, just things, events in their life that have just really suppressed them, and not realizing that those events have suppressed their voice.
Yeah.
One example might be when kids are in school and they raise their hand and the teacher says, put your hand down.
Mm-hmm.
That is a suppression of our voice that most people probably don't even think of as suppression.
Exactly. And most people feel kind of like fatalistic about their voice, like, well, it just is what it is. And
Right.
some things are true. I mean, I sound like my people. I sound like the tall, deep voiced people I come from. And most of what has formed us as voices, it's haphazard. It's something someone said to you, like, what's that noise?
Right.
Something, a trauma, a deep trauma. I've had 2 major surgeries in my life until recently. I broke my wrist last year, but I had my tonsils out in my 20s, and that's right before I started singing. Because I think my tonsils just caught all of the things I couldn't say.
Right.
And then they took them out, and I started singing, and then I stopped for a boyfriend. I can't even imagine who would make such a decision. But I was young.
Lots of
And
people.
a lot of people, yeah, when
Yeah.
they're in their 20s, for sure.
Yeah.
I stopped singing. And then all that energy that had gotten moving went into a nodule in my thyroid. It wasn't cancerous, thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And they cut my throat. I have a scar. They cut my throat. It was like an initiatory experience for me. And they
Wow.
said, well, the only possible complication besides just anesthesia would be we could nick your laryngeal nerve and you would be hoarse for the rest of your life.
Oh, how scary.
I know. And I just was like, okay, if I come back with a voice, I am going to use that thing for that. I'm never going to stop singing.
And the universe said, well, here you go.
No more knives, And so, like many of us, our gifts and our wounds are butted up right next to each other.
Yeah.
And now I think when I sing, people can feel something different than if it was like, oh, it's just always been easy. I
Right.
dragged myself, through the swamp of terror and doubt and fear to get this voice, and it feels like it's all in there. So I just can't even say how grateful I am that I came back from that surgery. Thank goodness. The surgeon, my endocrinologist, said, well, the surgeon, he's kind of an ass. He's terrible bedside manner, but he's really good. I said, I don't care. He can just be a jerk. I'll be fine. So bless his heart, he kept my voice.
That's really great. Can you give us an example of somebody who you've worked with that came from a point of like not, I mean, because one of the things I love about this podcast is just the so many different things that people can tap into.
Yes.
And having that example of someone that you brought from not hearing their, maybe they weren't even hearing their own voice,
Mm-hmm.
to really opening up and expanding
Oh.
and what became of them.
Oh my goodness, so many. So this is just the first one that popped into mind. I told this story in my new book, Vocal Intelligence. So there's this woman who came to me because she was in a work situation in her early career as the only woman at the table, the youngest person at the table, and she's an Asian of Asian descent. So it's kind of like she had to man up. And then
Right.
I've worked with so many women who live in sort of well, we all live in the man's world. We all
We
live in
do.
the patriarchy, no matter our
Very
gender.
masculine energy in
Right.
the world, especially right now.
Especially right now. And so she learned how to be like what I call fiery. She had to be fiery all the time and rah, 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 just to like get her voice heard and to even just break into the conversation. So she kind of built this muscle, and she's got a lot of passion. She's got a lot of energy, so that kind of matches. But then she went to a new kind of more diverse
Hmm.
workplace, and she got in touch with me because she thought, people don't like my ideas. They don't like me. And so she said, I wonder if there's something about how I'm showing up, which was I mean, bless her heart, who would
Yeah.
think of that? But so many people just find me that like organically, like they just stumble on one of my TED Talks, or a friend gives them my book or
Yep.
something. So we worked with expanding her range. All of the voices we have, all five of those sounds, are perfect except when they're not, right? So there are situations when that fire voice, like if you're in front of a group and you're trying to, speak to a big group and get the energy going, that's great. But it all by itself, it can get a little tiresome,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Rawr, 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 rawr. And
Yep.
so we work to give her more choice. That's the idea of the five elements framework, is it gives you more awareness and flexibility. So,
Okay.
and to do it in a way that you welcome all those voices and those qualities back home. These are not fancy, being grounded or passionate,
Right.
tender-hearted, clear, and imaginative. That's just human. So she actually welcomed them all really quite quickly. Sometimes there's a defense against it.
Hmm.
Often the
Yep.
voice is like ready to go, but there's like, no, that's not me. I'm a
Yeah.
quiet person, or I'm a introvert, or I'm whatever, fill in the blank. But she actually moved pretty quickly. And so she started experimenting with bringing her water voice to the table, and her air voice. One of the things that air voice is good for is like saying, I have an idea, which is
Mm.
very different than saying, I have an idea,
Right. Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
she played with water and air a little more, and she felt like, this is me too. And all
I
of a
feel
sudden,
more feminine energy coming
yes,
from the air and the water versus the fire and,
earth.
I mean, even earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although people have all, think about, Lauren Bacall, and,
Yeah.
it's like there's and Mr. Rogers is a great example of a
Yep.
watery voiced man. So we
Yep.
can't, but in the cultural norms,
Yeah.
women are herded towards the water and the air just so you can be like a nice girl.
Right.
Men are forced down into the earth whether they like it or not.
Yep.
Anyway, so she's playing with water at work, and they're like loving her ideas, and she's having more fun. And she thought, maybe she's like, my husband is kind of a watery guy. And so she invited him in, showed him the 5 elements, showed him my first TED Talk, which is about that framework. And she said, I'm going to experiment with doing more water at home. And he's like, okay. And she tried it and then checked in with him. And he's like, it's just so nice around here. It's like warmer and more relaxed. And she felt it. It wasn't just like trying to take care of him. She actually was like, oh my God, that was a lot of pushing that I did. So that's just one example. And then I've also worked with people who've gone through trauma, which is basically everybody. It's just a matter of degree, who, found their fire. She had a lot. She had too much fire. And there's other people who just have been so punished for showing up at all. Hit even.
Yep.
Yelled at. And so for them to get their voice out. And one more funny story, I was training a woman in my work, and she said, I can't believe I forgot this. I pushed up 2 full-term big babies with no medication in total silence.
Wow.
And so I said, you want to make those sounds now? They're still in there. So she crouched down on the floor and she was like, oh, she was making all those sounds again. So I feel like the sounds we don't make, those expressions, they're waiting for us. They stick around. It's kind of like the body holds energy. So
body keeps the score.
Exactly. Yep. So does the voice. And it's ready to come back at the least invitation.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This really does speak to my entire being because of the work that I do, and knowing that the voice is such a huge part of why emotions and stuff get suppressed, because when we're young, it's children should be seen and not heard. Exactly. And so we are, and I think that upcoming parents are doing things differently. They're allowing their kids to have a voice, to negotiate, to let them know what is okay and what's not okay, with guidance.
Yes.
And I think that being able to really use our voice and like you said, just use sounds.
Yes.
To allow that trauma to release is so empowering.
It is. I remember years ago, I was doing this peer counseling work, and I was watching this woman cry, and she had tears and snot running down her face, and she was like, ah! She was letting it all out, and I was like, part of me was like, shut up, and part of me was like, I'll have what she's having. It was an I'll have what she's having moment. And I thought, oh my gosh, so I wrote a song called Oh for Crying Out Loud.
Oh.
Which was about when I was training a group of people, I said, we're going to be traveling together over a year and tears will come. So here's the invitation. Let's make this the church of loud crying. Just to see if we can reclaim that sound again. Yeah. And what's interesting, that is in the 5 elements, that's the water voice. And it's also the sound of comfort. Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting? That the wound, the expression of the sadness and the comfort of the sadness comes from the same sound. Yeah.
Oh, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. As we start to wrap up this conversation, is there anything that you want the listeners to know or to hear that we did not touch on?
Oh my goodness, so many things, but I think the core of it is that you have a choice about your voice, and it's a really fun way to heal. I mean, I've done a lot of therapy, I've done a lot of counseling, and I'm really grateful for it, but that there's healing possible through playing. Mm-hmm. Being a big bear, or a loud, obnoxious person, or, I often take people through the elements with laughing. You know what I mean? It's like, that's a quick way to go through all the elements. It's fun.
Yeah.
Also terrifying.
Can be.
Can be.
Yeah.
But really, your voice is how your gifts get from inside of you into the world. Even if you're an energy worker, even if you're a choreographer or a potter, the world can't find you. It's like you're sending out a signal, and nothing much happens if we can't connect with each other. And the voice is a primary way of doing that. So
It is, and I love it.
yeah.
Barbara, what are the titles of your books, and can they find them on Amazon?
Yes, the titles are. I have one here. It's called Full Voice: The Art and Practice of Vocal Presence. That was my first one, and the newest one is called Vocal Intelligence. And I recommend that second one. They're both on audiobook.
Oh, wonderful.
But the second one, Vocal Intelligence, started as an audiobook and includes over an hour of my music as a way to kind of take you through it. So those are the two books. I also have a website full of songs, music videos, and information about upcoming classes and things like that. So,
And that will all be in the show notes, but what is your website for those who are listening?
BarbaraMcAfee.com.
Beautiful. Barbara, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your voice and everything that you have to offer. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you as well, and I wish you good singing.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead. Who cares? Who cares what they
Right? Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us on the Metamorphosis Project podcast. I hope today's episode brought you inspiration, joy, and a spark of empowerment. Remember, transformation is an incredible journey, and every single step you take towards self-care and healing brings you closer to the life you truly desire. If this episode uplifted you, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us to share this journey of hope, resilience, and joy with many listeners. For more tips, support, and inspiration, come and visit us at designyourexistence.com. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep shining brightly. You are absolutely worth every bit of love and care you give to yourself. Take care, stay joyful, and be well.